Welcome everyone to another video. Today I have something really special for you. We are going to be doing a walkthrough of my complete bike collection. You know, when you own a bike shop, you tend to accumulate a lot of bikes. So in this video, I'm going to talk about the bikes that I own personally, not the bikes that are owned by the bike shop or are going to be for sale as part of the bike shop. These are my personal bikes that I have purchased for one reason or another and added to my own personal collection. Now I'm using the term collection loosely. This is more of an accumulation. To me, a collection is a little more curated where you have specific bikes for a specific reason. And unfortunately, the current situation I'm in, I just have a lot of bikes. In fact, I have 15 bikes in total. I'm only going to cover part of them in this video, so I've split it up into 3 parts. So in the first part of this series, I'm going to be covering off on my regular everyday rider bikes. These are bikes that are definitely being used. They will be part of my collection going forward unless things change dramatically, and in some cases they're bikes that I've already done a video on, so I'll put a link below to each of those bikes and you can learn more about them if you want. The second part of this series, I will cover off on bikes that are kind of on the bubble. These are bikes that I bought for a specific reason, and they may or may not be relevant to my going forward collection. So these are bikes that may or may not end up being sold at some point. And then lastly, I'm going to be talking about bikes that are definitely on the chopping block. They no longer serve a purpose in what I envision as my collection going forward. So these are bikes that I plan on selling or parting out or somehow passing along. So 15 bikes in total. Can't believe I have that many at the moment. That's way more than I need, way more than I want. So as we go through this video, I want to hear from you. Which bikes would you give the axe to? Which bikes would you definitely keep? I want to hear from you. Let's get the conversation started below. And without further ado, let's get into the first set of bikes. These are bikes that I ride every day and that I plan on keeping going forward. So check it out. So the first bike I want to talk about is my Crust Bombora. This bike is my daily driver. I take this bike on all of our group rides. We do 2 group rides every week, and this is my go-to bike. I have ridden it in Mid-South. It's just a great all-around gravel bike. I built it from the ground up. We do have a video on this bike, and I'll put a link to that video in the description below. But just love this bike. It's a little bit unique in that it has Jevenel shifters, which, as you'll see as we go through my collection, I use on a lot of my bikes. It's got some really nice Velocity aileron wheels and just an overall great bike. Probably my favorite thing about it is the graphics that Crust puts on their bikes. Fantastic, love them. Also, I should point out I've got Yokozuna brakes, and you'll also see that on a couple of our bikes that we build. We use them quite a bit. So yeah, this is the Crust Bombora. This one's definitely staying in the collection. I'm gonna have this bike for as long as possible. The next bike up is the Bianchi Axis, and it's a 1989 as far as I can tell. This is my first gravel bike, and I bought it because I wanted to try gravel cycling. I didn't want to spend a lot of money, and I think I paid $225 for this bike back in 2016. I rode my first Dirty Kanza, in 2016 on this bike. I also rode it in 2017. Actually in 2017, I had a really good time. I finished in 6 hours and 43 minutes, something like that. So I averaged about 14.5 miles per hour. We actually converted this to a 1x drivetrain, so it doesn't have the original drivetrain. It's got bar end shifters. It's got some Velocity A23 wheels that we put on it. They don't match. It's just kind of a ragtag bike that I love. It hasn't gotten much love lately. I put it on the trainer in the winter and ride it. It hangs in the shop also. And I plan on doing something to kind of restore it a little bit, get it in a little bit better condition. And it will stay in my collection just because of the sentimental value of this bike and the history I have on this bike. It really is what got me into gravel cycling. I probably wouldn't have a bike shop if I would not have had the great experience on this bike. So it's certainly a testament that you don't need to spend a huge amount of money on your first gravel bike or your first bike. Just get a good quality one that you enjoy riding, make it your own, and get out there and ride it. So that's what I did with this bike, and I'm definitely not going to let it go anywhere. There's not a lot of value in the bike probably. It's not a super expensive bike, but it means a lot to me, so it's going to stay in my collection. So if you've been following along on this channel at all, you know this is my Bridgestone XO-1. This is a bike that I spent years looking for, finally came across one. It's probably my most prized possession in terms of bikes, and it definitely will not leave my collection. It's not super valuable in that it's a frame, so there's value in that, but it's not an original bike. I don't have original parts on this. I probably will not try to restore it to original. I like it just the way it is. It's got a collection of parts on it that I like. I like the way it rides and the wheels that we have on it, everything about it. I might make a few minor tweaks here and there, but it's probably gonna stay like it is. And I'm just gonna enjoy it. I do have big plans for this bike. I'm going to be doing a race. I had planned to do a race this year, but I got COVID at the last minute and wasn't able to do it. So stay tuned. I will definitely do a video when that comes about, and it's going to be a fun time riding this bike in a gravel race. But not a lot more I can say about it. We did do a full video on this bike, so you can check it out. I'll link it below. And yeah, this bike's not going anywhere. Definitely a big part of my future collection plans, and plan to keep it probably as long as I can still ride bikes. All right, so the next bike in our collection is, of course, the Surly Bridge Club. And if you've been following along with this channel, you probably saw our Building the Best Surly Bridge Club series, in which we transformed this bike into a 2x drivetrain, put new wheels on it, put a dynamo hub and light on it, and just generally decked it out the way I wanted it to be. When I first started that project, I wasn't sure if I was going to keep this bike, but after going through the process, I decided that it would be a great part of my collection. After all, we are an intergalactic Surly destination dealer, and Surly has been a big part of our story at Ottawa Bike and Trail, and the Bridge Club has probably been our best-selling Surly bike. We have a lot of customers on this bike, and they love it. So it would definitely be a fitting part of our collection to keep it going forward. And so I plan to do that. I also plan to use this as my bike packing bike. I'm going to be doing some trips next summer, hopefully, and I'm planning to use this bike. I'm also planning to get it powder coated, as we discussed in the last episode of the series, and that will happen this winter probably. So definitely big plans for this bike. Love it. Don't plan to sell it. So Bridge Club makes the cut and will be part of our collection going forward. All right, guys, the last bike for this video is my Surly Pack Rat. I call this my Surly Fat Rat because it has really nice big fat 650B by 48 millimeter Rene Hirsch tires. And I did a video on this bike early on when we first built it up. And at that time I had smaller tires on it. I didn't have the fenders on it. So I've made all of those additions. Since then, also we put a dynamo hub on the front and a nice light. So this is the bike I can jump on and ride anytime I want. I love the front rack and basket. Just a great overall bike. My home is about 40 minutes away from our shop. So rather than hauling bikes back and forth, I keep this bike at home and ride it on the weekends and whenever I feel like it, getting on a bike. This is the bike I jump on. I've put a lot of miles on this bike. I take it everywhere, and every time I ride it, I think how much I love it. It might actually be my favorite bike, and it's definitely not going anywhere. It's going to stay in the collection. Have no plans to ever sell it. It's too bad they don't make the Surly Pack Rat any longer. To me, it's sort of a randoneering style bike. They never used randoneering in the marketing for this bike, and it didn't last very long, but it certainly is a great bike. It has a great ride. It's great loaded in the front, and just, yeah, I love it. Surly Pack Rat. All right, guys, thanks for watching this video. If you made it this far, don't forget to like and subscribe, especially if you want to see the rest of our collection video. In the next episode, episode 2, we're going to be talking about bikes that are kind of on the bubble. Not sure if we're going to keep them, not sure if we're going to modify them, not really sure. We'll go through each one. We've got 5 bikes in that collection, so stay tuned for that. And once again, folks, thanks for watching. We really appreciate it.